Welcome, everyone, to another episode of The Rivals. I am Caleb. Anthony is on holiday. He went skiing in Colorado, so he is not with me. So I guess I'm just the rival today, no one to argue with. But the show must go on, and considering what just transpired in the world of Champions League football, I would be irresponsible if I didn't just spend a little bit of time talking to you guys about what just happened. I'm going to backtrack to yesterday. Today's Wednesday. Yesterday was an opportunity for history to be made. Now, Arsenal went to Germany and lost in Germany 5-1. 5 goals for the home team. Bayern Munich scored 5 goals. Arsenal scored 1. They were tied 1-1 at halftime in the first leg. And they came back to England, to London, to the Emirates, which was once a home. Arsenal's home was a fortress. They didn't lose at home for many years. And after their loss, and Anthony and I talked about this. I don't remember if it was last episode or maybe 2 episodes ago. A lot of people blamed Arsene Wenger. There were a couple of Chilean fans. I don't know if a couple is the right word. There were some Chilean fans that basically wanted Alexis Sanchez to leave Arsenal. They thought that he was too big for the club. The club is not good enough for him, and they needed him to leave. They proceed to lose to Liverpool, and then they host Bayern Munich with the opportunity to reverse a 5-1 away loss at home, which, again, as I mentioned, used to be the Emirates when it was first built. I believe, I might be getting my stats wrong. Maybe it was the old Highbury ground, but it was a fortress for Arsenal in Europe. I mean, they didn't lose at home in the Champions League. They just didn't. And it has not been that way for a long time for them. So here come Bayern Munich. And to be fair to Bayern, they came out with a strong team. They didn't come out thinking, we've got this one, we're not going to try. They came out to win, or at least to not lose a 4-goal advantage that they had, which would have been, like I said, a historic debacle. It ends up that it was a debacle, but not in the way that Arsenal would have hoped. It ended up being another 5-1 defeat for an aggregate of 10-2, which is I'm trying to think of a nice word, and not being your typical, like, it was a demolishment, it was a complete fiasco, or anything like that. I just, I mean, that's what it was, though. It was embarrassing to watch. It was, and you guys know I'm a Tottenham supporter, and I'm saying this, and you have to understand, it's not because I'm a Tottenham supporter that I think this was a debacle or embarrassing or a complete, it was just bad. Caveat to this, I think Koscielny's red card was completely harsh. I believe that he was sent off, and that was the wrong decision by the referee. I don't believe that he should have been sent off. I don't think it was definitely a penalty. I don't even think it was a yellow card. I just felt like he went shoulder to shoulder with Lewandowski, knocked him over, and penalty kick, and that's that. I don't think it was a yellow card. But I mean, if you're going to give the player a card, you give him a yellow card for that, and that's the end. I'm not sure what was said between the line judge and the center referee to warrant his sending off, which I thought was absolutely the wrong decision. If the argument is, well, he didn't play the ball, and also he was the last defender, and also it was a clear goal scoring opportunity, I don't know if... Maybe you can say he wasn't playing the ball. Maybe you can say all he was doing was going for the player and knocking him over on purpose. But it was a little through ball in the box. I don't know. I think it was harsh. That's what I'm going to say. I'm sticking with that. I don't know what you guys think. To me, it was a very harsh red card, and it changed the complexity of the game. Absolutely. But you have to say, even 11 on 11, Arsenal aren't coming back. Okay, they're not coming back and winning this game. And even if you can conceive an Arsenal victory, they weren't going to reverse the 5-1. They weren't going to win 5-1 themselves. They weren't going to win 4-0. They weren't going to win by any... They might have won by 1, maybe 2 goals at best. Because I don't believe they're a better team than Bayern Munich, period. On any day of the week, 10 times out of 10, Bayern Munich win the game against Arsenal. Even average Bayern Munich is better than Arsenal. That's just how I feel. I feel like they have better players. I feel like they are a better overall group of individuals. They have better individuals, and they are a better collective. And I just think Arsenal didn't have a chance. But the way they went down, even after they went down to 10 men, at that point you lose 2-1, 3-1 at most. No, they lost 5-1 again. Just absolutely capitulated and gave up, and then you see Alexis Sanchez after he got benched, just giggling, sitting on the bench giggling. He's gone. He's leaving at the end of the season. Wenger's out. No way Arsenal offer him a contract extension. And this is the end of an era. And I feel like, and this is where I put back my Tottenham supporter hat. I feel like I'm glad that they lost the way they lost. I'm glad that they got demolished, because I hope that this demoralizes them to the point where they are one less team fighting for the 3 remaining Champions League spots. I feel like that increases Tottenham's chances of finishing in the top 3 or in the top 4. We can say that Chelsea's won the league. It's over. So spots 2, 3, and 4 are up for grabs. We're in a very good position right now to finish in that second spot. I know Manchester City, they have a game in hand, but they'll catch up with us this weekend when we play FA Cup and everyone else plays Premier League. So hypothetically, we could drop down to third behind Manchester City at the end of the weekend. But I would love for Arsenal just to be so demoralized as a group, as a club, as an organization, as a fan base, that they just stop being a contender for those last 3 remaining spots. Because right now, you have Tottenham, Manchester City, Liverpool, and Arsenal really fighting for those last 3 spots. Yeah, Manchester United still there, but they seem to have some sort of affinity for that 6th spot. So mathematically, they're still in it. I'm discounting them completely. Just Manchester United, go away. So there are 4 teams fighting for 3 spots. If Arsenal go away, then that means there are 3 teams fighting for 3 spots, which, you know, obviously if there are only 3 teams competing and there are 3 spots available, all 3 teams are getting in. Obviously, Arsenal and Manchester United are still going to be fighting for those spots. But if Arsenal can drop off a little bit more, we have more breathing room. I think that would be fantastic. Not only that, but it'd be great to finish above them. And honestly, as much as I would love to finish above them, I don't care as much right now about that statistic, finishing above Arsenal in the league for the first time in a bazillion years. It's important. I'm not saying it's not. I would love for that to happen as a Tottenham supporter, but it's not my number one priority. I would rather finish 4th, go into next season at Wembley in the Champions League, finish in the top 4 that season as well, and come into the new stadium in Champions League. That's what I want. And that it's more of a long-term prospect for the club. I would rather that than finish 7th and Arsenal finish 8th. That doesn't do me any good. I don't care if we finish above them in the table if we're not going to be in Champions League. I would rather them finishing above us as long as we're still in the Champions League, because I feel like we need it next season. We're going to need it next season. We're going to need it the season after that. And I think it's time for us to build a mindset that we belong in the Champions League every season. We've supplanted Manchester United or Liverpool as a team that's constantly in the fight for Champions League. And I think that's more important long term than finishing above Arsenal one season and breaking the record. Not saying I don't want to, I'm just saying it's not the most pressing issue. That being said, that's why I'm glad they lost the way they lost. I think it was unfair. Being a subjective person, speaking to you on the internet, I have to say, as a lover of the sport, as someone who wants to see the spectacle of football not tarnished by cheaters or people who say, throw stuff on the pitch, like fans throwing stuff on the pitch, fans fighting in the stands, traveling fans getting stabbed when they travel to other countries, that kind of thing I want it out of the game. And I feel like just in general, I want a fair game. The game itself needs to be well arbitrated. And I feel like, despite the fact that I'm glad that they lost, and I'm glad the way they lost, I wish they had lost that way with 11. I feel it would mean more. And I feel like Koscielny was sent off unfairly and improperly. I don't feel like he should have gotten kicked out of the game. Whatever the case, Arsenal were unable to reverse the 5-1 that they suffered away, and they were eliminated. Let's fast forward to the present. That was yesterday. Today is today. Today is Wednesday. Today we had another matchup wherein a team went down by 4 goals away, and were looking to fight back. And that was Barcelona hosting Paris Saint-Germain today at Camp Nou. And I felt like I texted my friend, and I wish I could show you. I'm not going to show you guys a screenshot of my phone. But I actually texted my friend, and I told him, if Arsenal had 0.000% chance of reversing that 4-goal deficit aggregate, then Barcelona, I still don't think they can. But they probably have a 20% chance. Just throwing numbers out there. So if there is a team that can do this, if there is a club that has the firepower to make this comeback, it's Barcelona. Barcelona don't have the best defense. They don't have the same defense that they had, 5-6 years ago. They definitely don't have the midfield that they had in the past, but they have that trio up front that is just a devastating attacking power. And if there was a team that was going to be able to pull this off, it was going to be Barcelona. But again, PSG they're not scrubs. They're not a scrub team. They're a wealthy club with really good players on it. They came out in a formation with the lineup that I felt was good enough to hold off, at the very least, hold off Barcelona for 90 minutes. You didn't have to beat them. You just had to not lose by 5 goals. That's it. That's all they had to do. Not lose by 5 goals. And immediately they came out and dropped back. And I don't watch a lot of Ligue 1. I don't watch a lot of the French league. So I don't know if PSG are built to sit back like that. But they took it to Barcelona the first leg. And granted, Barcelona didn't play well the first leg. They were poor. You don't lose 4-0 if you aren't poor and the other team is really good. Even if you're looking at bad teams. Like a few weeks ago, Tottenham beat Stoke City 4-0. Stoke, compared to Tottenham, Tottenham is a much, much, much better club, much better players than Stoke. But still, as long as one team shows up and plays, you don't lose by 4 goals. One team has to not show up for the other team to beat by that score. And for it to have been PSG beating Barcelona, I'm not saying that, it wouldn't be the same as if Stoke had beaten Tottenham 4-0, because the comparison isn't the same. Barcelona is a better team than PSG, but not to the extent that Tottenham is a better team than Stoke. Even so, Barcelona had to not show up to get beaten 4-0 at any point. PSG played very well not to take anything away, but Barcelona played poorly to lose like that. But you had a feeling that they might be able to, give them a scare. I didn't think they were going to pull it off. But PSG came out. And like I said, I don't know if their team is built to defend, to just drop back and defend with 11. But that's what they did. They came out and they just dropped back. And they had no business doing that. They could have played against Barcelona like they did at home. Again, granted, Barcelona played poorly that first game. But it's like the roles were reversed because PSG played not good. They played very bad. They were terrible. They gave the ball away in midfield. They gave the ball away in their defense. They were just not good. They were not good at all. And they were down 1 goal like within 4 or 5 minutes. It was insane. But then they held off. They started getting a little more possession. And they were holding off Barcelona for the rest of the half, and you felt like, okay, this thing settled down. This is how it's going to end. I think Barcelona might get 1 more goal, maybe 2, second half, make it a little bit scary, but I don't think they're going to pull it off. Until they scored right before halftime, 2-0, going into halftime, and you thought that they might do it. And then they got the 3rd goal in the second half, and you felt it. It was coming. Barcelona were about to tie. PSG, 4-4 on aggregate. They were going to go to extra time. And then who knows what was going to happen. Maybe they go to penalty kicks. And at that point, it's a flip of the coin. It's Russian roulette at that point. But then Cavani scored. And it was over. And my buddy, the one I was texting, he's like, good game. Whatever. It's over. And it was. It was over. And PSG, that's exactly what they thought. It is over. They went ahead and sat back That was it. They stopped playing. And that's why they lost. All of a sudden, it's 3-1. You're not gonna come back. And then all of a sudden, it's 4-1. Oh, okay. And then all of a sudden, Neymar scores a free kick. It's 5-1. You're in extra time, and you felt it. At that point, when Neymar scored his goal that tied it on aggregate but the away goal rule. And I want to talk about that in a second. But when he tied it, and it was 5-5 on aggregate, you knew Barcelona were going to win. You just felt it. You just felt it in the air when I was watching it. I was just waiting for it to happen. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but you knew it was going to happen. And it happened. And it happened. And it was completely PSG's fault. They came out to defend because they felt like they had a 4-goal lead and they didn't have to do anything. They felt like I felt, and this happens all the time in this game, in this sport. You come out to lose, and you're going to lose. That is not the right attitude to have. Just because you can tie in the sport doesn't mean that in your head you say, let's not lose, and you say, well, they needed 4 goals. It was the right idea to come out to not give up 4 goals. Like, we can give up 1, maybe 2, but not 4. That is the bad way of approaching a game. It was horrible. It was a terrible decision, and it cost them. They came out either to not lose, not to win, but to not lose, or to not lose by a lot. And they ended up losing by a lot. They lost 6-1. I think this is way more embarrassing and disgraceful than Arsenal's loss. I can't imagine a more heartbreaking, demoralizing, career-ending loss than being the team on the wrong side of history, wherein no team has ever come back from a 4-goal deficit in the Champions League. In Europe, I believe, in any form of European competition, no team has lost away 4 goals and come back and won at home. It's never happened. It didn't happen yesterday. Arsenal did not have the fortitude to do so. And PSG came out, much like Arsenal, and just capitulated. But it was the backwards thing, because they had the lead. And once they scored their goal, it was 3-1, and you just felt, at that point, PSG were in the ascendancy, and the game was over. The stadium thought it was over. The managers thought it was over. The announcers thought it was over. The players thought it was over. No, that's not true. The players didn't think it was over. Only the PSG players thought it was over. The Barcelona players kept going. They kept going the entire time. They swarmed defensively but they swarmed defensively whenever a PSG player had the ball. They were quick to recover. They took a lot of risks, but PSG didn't take advantage of that. I mean, there were times where the ball was in the PSG last third or defensive third, and they couldn't clear the ball. What were they doing? It didn't seem like they had any urgency. You boot that ball, you make Cavani chase it. I don't care. You put Di Maria in, you just boot it and have him chase. Because I guarantee you, he's faster than Mascherano, he's faster than Piqué, he's faster than Busquets. He's faster than them. So why didn't they do that? Even when he came in, because he didn't start, even when he came in, they didn't do that. And they had a couple of times, they had a couple of fast breaks and counterattacks where I thought that might have been dangerous, but they made the wrong decisions. They didn't even shoot. There were a couple of times where I think Di Maria shot and went way wide. There was another time where he should have cut it in. I felt like he should have cut it in because somebody was running alongside him. If he had cut it in, it was one-on-one with the keeper, and you almost expect them to score. But instead, he took a very bad shot and ended up going, way wide. But they had a couple of chances to put the game away for good, and they didn't. And Barcelona kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and it didn't feel like there was any urgency until Neymar scored the fifth goal. When he scored that free kick and the keeper didn't even go for it, you just felt like PSG were panicking. At that point, they were panicking. They didn't know what was going on. They couldn't believe that this was happening. And instead of taking fate into their own hands, they let it play out. And it played out. It was like, I couldn't believe it. I was absolutely speechless when number 6 went in. I was speechless. I had no words. I just sat there. And I was like, I can't believe we just witnessed this. And I don't even, this isn't even the best Barcelona team of all time. I don't even think Barcelona are the best team in the world right now. I don't even think they're the favorites to win La Liga, much less Champions League. But man, I mean, this was insane. And this should have never happened. It shouldn't have happened. And if it was going to happen, it should have gone to extra time and penalty kicks. You can say, well, Barcelona ended up winning in extra time or penalty kicks. But not during regular time. I mean, that's just, I mean, I don't even know how you do this and be remembered as the team that let this happen. This is enormous. I mean, it's not the biggest comeback of all time. It's not Red Sox Yankees, ALCS, down 3-0 and coming back and winning the series 4-3. It's not that big, but it's big. It's big in terms of European football, Champions League. I wouldn't say it's the greatest comeback in Champions League history. You have I think better comebacks in single games, but I mean this was definitely the obviously the biggest comeback over a 2-leg series in the history of the Champions League of Europe. So I mean it's definitely huge, but I'm not taking anything away from Barcelona. PSG played really poorly. They had every chance to put it away. And Barcelona, to their credit, didn't give up, kept pushing. They stuck to it. And wow, they did it. And like I said, I am still. This just happened like maybe an hour or 2 hours ago. I'm still truly amazed by what we just saw, and I'm glad I watched it. I really am. So since there's no Anthony to talk about MLS, I know the MLS started this season, this last weekend. I didn't watch any games. I didn't actually watch any Liga MX games either. I know the Rowdies are getting ready to start the regular season. We're playing Orlando City B the 25th of March, Saturday night. My understanding is Orlando City versus Tampa Bay Rowdies is going to be a feisty affair on and off the pitch. My understanding is that last time Orlando City B came over and played, they almost knocked down one of the walls and were throwing firecrackers onto the field. So, I mean, okay. Not to take away anything from the competition, but it's just the USL, bros. It's not even MLS. It's second division. It used to be third division, but second division. United States Soccer Federation football. It's not even. I mean, I don't know how else to put this. It's not that serious. It's never that serious. I mean, but it's not Barcelona, Real Madrid. It's not Boca Juniors, River Plate. It's not America, Chivas. It's not Celtic Rangers, don't throw fireworks over the wall at Al Lang Stadium, because why would you? Seriously, why? It's just baffling. But okay, that's apparently that's how Orlando City supporters feel about our team, about the Tampa Bay Rowdies. So my understanding is Orlando City are that same weekend playing away. So a lot of the fans that are not going to watch Orlando City, the main team, the MLS team, away, might be making the short trip from Orlando to St. Petersburg, and watching their B team play the Rowdies opening night. My understanding is that it's going to be a feisty affair on and off the pitch. I'm looking forward to the game itself. I think it's going to be interesting. I'm excited that the Rowdy season is getting going, and as Anthony and I have been mentioning, I'm trying to get into the Rowdies wholesale. Like, I'm all in. Like, I'm invested. I'm going into it. So I don't know what to expect. I'll be more sold on the MLS if the Rowdies ever make it to the MLS. And I'll let Anthony talk about that next week. A couple of things that are happening. There's actually a couple of town hall meetings, and there's going to be a vote coming up soon as to whether or not the city is going to lease the stadium to the Rowdies. I think it's a 20-year lease that they're looking at, and there's going to be a referendum. And I'm actually looking to see how one makes it to that and votes. I think that's something I would be interested in, not just from a legal standpoint, being that Anthony and I are both in law school, but from a fan standpoint, I'd like to vote for that and allow the Rowdies to have that lease for 20, 25 years. I forget which number it is. I think that would be a step in the right direction to making sure that the Rowdies are allowed, or the Rowdies are given the chance to become an MLS team. So that's what's coming up. Like I said, hopefully we'll be talking about that next week. One last note, I did mention I wasn't going to talk about the away goal rule. I'm 100% against away goal rule. Now, the premise of the away goal rule, for those of you who don't know, in major competitions, like regular season games, and this is a concept that's pretty foreign to American sports fans, you can tie in football, in soccer. You can tie. There is such a thing as the tie. So traditionally you used to get no points for a loss, 1 point for a draw or a tie. They're called draws. And 1 and 2 points for a win. And they changed that, I forget when, but now it's 3 points for a win instead of 2. But that's not even the point. The point is, during the regular season, at any time, two teams can tie, and so they share the points. And like I said, it used to be 2 points, and the teams used to share the 2 points, one each. Now it's 3 points for a win. So, but you don't share the points. You still only get you don't share 1.5 points. You share 1. You split it. So that's how much a tie is worth. And it's commonplace. It happens all the time. However, when you are in a tournament setting, there comes a point where teams are going to get eliminated, and obviously you cannot tie because one team has to not be in the tournament anymore. So they don't allow ties. So if you tie at the end of regulation, at the end of regular time, 90 minutes plus the couple of added minutes of injuries, if you are still tied, you go into what is called extra time. Extra time is overtime. It's basically the same. It's exactly the same concept as in American sports, such as American football, wherein you go to extra time. There's an added period at the end of the game where the two teams continue to play until there is a winner. Back in the olden days, there was a thing called golden goal. It used to be called sudden death, but for some reason they changed the name of it to golden goal. Now, sudden death and golden goal are the exact same concept. The team that scores first wins. The end. It's like, again, it's much like, I believe it's the NFL, where the first team that scores wins. It's over. If you get the ball first, you kick a 60-yard field goal and you score it, you win, and that's the end of the game. College football obviously is different. I think both teams get a chance to score. They both start at the 20, I believe, or the 35, 25-yard. I haven't watched American football in decades, so I don't remember the rules. But it's much more like the NFL, where it's sudden death. And the first team that scores wins. And that used to be the rule. It was called sudden death. Then they changed it to golden goal. Now it's not like that anymore. Now it is like an extra little game that is 15 minutes, and then they take a super quick break, switch sides, and it's another 15 minutes. And it's not sudden death anymore. It's not golden goal. It is whoever wins at the end of that period. So if you score in the first minute of added time, you still have 29 minutes to keep playing. You don't win automatically. You can win at the very end. You can win in the middle. You can win at the very beginning. I mean, you can score at the end, middle, or beginning, but you still have to play out the entire 30 minutes. That's how that works now. So technically, you could score 2 or 3 goals during that period of time, and the other team can score 2 or 3 goals themselves. If you are still tied at the end of those 2 15-minute periods, you go into penalty kicks, which, again, like I mentioned earlier, is just a flip of the coin. You never know what's going to happen. The keeper could save, the keeper could not. You could kick it over the bar. You could accidentally hit the grass and trip over yourself. It's just insane. It's a lot of fun, unless your team is in it, in which case it's probably the most stressful, few minutes of your entire sporting life. I've watching my team penalty shootout is just ugh. Watching a penalty shootout of teams I'm not that invested in is a lot of fun. And as a player, I love penalty shootouts because I played keeper, and I love penalty shootouts. I love blocking penalty kicks. It's such a feeling that you get because the odds are against you as the keeper. But anyway, not the point. So that's the procedure for when there is a draw, a tie, during a tournament game. And that's when there's a one-off. However, some tournaments, actually a lot of them, have what is called a two-legged tie, wherein one team plays at home and then they play at the other team's stadium away. And they do that to be fair. Unlike, say, like the NFL during the playoffs, where it's the highest seeded team that gets to play at home, what these tournaments do all over the world is they play one game at home and then they play the other game away. And then it's the combined score, the aggregate of the two games, and you add up the goals. Like, say, Anthony and I are the teams, and Anthony is at Anthony Stadium and he beats me 2-0. So he is winning the aggregate, the home leg. He won the home leg for him, 2-0. Okay, so then we come to Caleb Stadium, the Caleb Dome or whatever, and I end up winning 3-0. That is a aggregate. The aggregate score is 3-2 in my favor, right? So 3-2, I win overall. Now let's say he beat me 2-1 at Anthony Stadium, and then I win 1-0 at the Caleb Dome. That is a 2-2 aggregate, right? So now we're tied. So what happens then? That is where the away goal rule comes into play. The premise of the away goal rule is that you want the away team to want to win, because what people were noticing, like people in charge were noticing, is that teams that visited other team stadiums would sit back and just kind of hope for a draw, maybe get a quick counterattacking goal, and come out of the game 1-0. Or maybe 0-0, 1-1, something like that, narrow victory or a tie, where they could come home and have home field advantage for the second game, which is the more important one. Because you can go away and lose and then come home and win. That's the point. You want to be at home the second game. It's just more beneficial to you. And so what they were finding is that the away team, like in the same scenario, I would go to the Anthony Stadium and I would just sit back and defend and hope for a 0-0. And then he would come to the Caleb Dome and I would hope for a 1-0. At that point, he has to win and I have to win. But I'm at home, so I have the advantage, because home field advantage is a phenomenon that exists, right? So what they wanted was that away teams stop doing that. So they created this thing where if you score a goal away, so if I score at Anthony Stadium in the first game and we come back to the Caleb Dome and we tie, that away goal that I scored counts as the tiebreaker. Therefore, I would win. So if he beats me at Anthony Stadium 2-1 and I beat him 1-0 at the Caleb Dome, I win. There's no extra time. There's no overtime. I win because I scored the away goal, and the away goal is the first tiebreaker. And the whole premise is that you're encouraging the away team to not defend and come out and attack, because it's more exciting when teams do that. But the only thing that they've actually done is made it so the home team is now defending, because the home team doesn't want to give away that away goal. So assuming that a big team like Barcelona comes to a small team like PSV Eindhoven from the Dutch league. Say Barcelona goes to PSV. The first game, Barcelona are away. Well, all PSV is going to do is sit back and try not to get scored on, because Barcelona is a bigger, better team, and they don't want to lose, because they know they're probably not going to get that many goals at Barcelona, so they're just going to sit back and defend. So the exact same thing is happening, where one team is defending and the other team is attacking. It's just now that they're reversed. So the away goal rule has done nothing to fix the problem of one team defending and one team attacking. All they've done is switch the roles of the team defending and the team attacking. It used to be the away team defending. Now it's the home team defending. I think it's a stupid rule. I think it's a really, 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 really stupid rule. Because you could have a really exciting or a really boring first game and a really exciting second game, and it doesn't matter because, the away goal rule. Instead of, hey, maybe one team deserves it more, they fought. I don't know, man. I'm kind of confusing the issue here. I'm just against it. I don't think it serves the purpose it's meant to serve. I think it actually creates the exact same problem but backwards, and I don't like it. And the reason I bring it up is because of today's game. At the point where Barcelona were tied on aggregate 5-5, when they were winning 5-1, PSG had scored 4 goals at home and the 1 away goal at Barcelona. They were tied 5-5. PSG were still winning because they had the away goal. They had the 1 goal that they just scored. And at that point, if I'm looking at this, I want this to go to overtime. I don't want this to end. I want to see this go. And at that point, if the game had ended, PSG would have won on the away goal rule. And I think that would have been extremely unfair to Barcelona, who played a lot better, and PSG came out like crap and didn't do anything. I think it would have been unfair to the fans like me watching from home, and I just wanted to see more of the game. But that didn't end up being a factor because Barcelona ended up winning anyway. But that's just me. That's just my opinion on the away goal rule. And I think that's going to do it for today. As I mentioned, we're going to try to talk Rowdies. That's the first thing we're going to talk about next episode. We're going to start off with the Rowdies. Tottenham play, I think it's Millwall this weekend, FA Cup quarterfinals. I believe it's the quarterfinals. Yes, it's definitely the quarterfinals. Chelsea, Manchester United are also playing each other, which to me is just an incredibly, incredibly, incredibly intriguing matchup. I'm very interested to see that game. I hope it's not at the same time because I really want to watch it. But yeah, we're not playing Premier League. There are going to be quite a few of the top teams that are not playing Premier League this weekend. So game in hand for those teams, or allowing other teams that didn't play last week to catch up. I know Arsenal, Southampton, Manchester United, and I forget the other team. None of them played last weekend. They're playing midweek to catch up because of the League Cup. Manchester United and Southampton that they played. So a couple of teams have games in hand. I know, like I said, Manchester City and Arsenal and United all had a game in hand. The schedule's just all scrambled up. But teams eventually are going to catch up. And the way they're going to have to catch up if they have a game in hand is they're going to have to play midweek. So unfortunately for them, that's just how the cookie crumbles. I don't see a scenario where Tottenham don't advance. I think Arsenal are playing Lincoln City. So I don't see a scenario where they don't advance either. But I'm very interested to see the Chelsea-Manchester United game. But that's coming up this weekend. I also want to talk about CONCACAF World Cup qualifiers that are coming up at the end of the month. So we'll be talking about that as well. So thank you for listening. And next week will be the rivals once more. So as per usual, this has been Caleb for the rivals. Catch you guys next time.